What is going on, guys? Judo Sloth here, and welcome to my latest guide for one of the best strategies at Town Hall 10 versus 11 right now, the Vaby Dragon. Valkyries and baby dragons. Used a little bit differently to how you would use this against an off-centered Town Hall base, where you would surround the base with baby dragons and then Valk the Town Hall. With this strategy, we're using a queen charge, supplementing that with baby dragons, and then Valking the core to hit that Town Hall and the 50%. Now, I do have a generic troop composition down below on the screen now. This can obviously be adjusted on the base, as can the troops themselves that you use, but let's just dive straight into this and break it down into the 5 steps as best as I can for you to follow, but obviously this can be adjusted as well. So step 1 is to use baby dragons to help with the funnel. Now this is just to control where your queen will walk within the base. Most of the time you want to be heading for the enemy CC, get that lured and down, and the enemy queen, but it does depend on where they are situated. So the baby dragon has set the funnel for the queen to walk down to the south, and that is step 2, the queen charge. The queen followed by 4 to 5 healers. Now it's just being very patient at this point. Step 3 is to rage and lure. So what I mean by that is, as you're being patient, you're using rage spells to keep your queen alive in areas that she is under heavy fire from multiple defenses, the enemy queen, the enemy CC. We also lured the CC with the use of a giant. So again, we're just being patient and continuing this on. And as the queen moves through, you will continue to use rage spells in order to keep her alive. You will see that the poison spells were used on the enemy CC and the enemy queen. Always good to slow that queen down. Often you can get away without even using a rage spell depending on the situation. A skeleton spell also works just as well. Step 4 is to continue the funnel. Now this is quite a woolly step. We're going to use the baby dragons on the outside to maintain the queen onto the defenses in the middle. And then we use the king, followed by either Valkyries or bowlers. In this attack it is bowlers, but you can use Valkyries just as well to continue setting the funnel. So if we look at the bigger picture here, from where the queen broke in, we're basically cutting all of the buildings away on this half, so that when we bring the Valkyries in, they go straight to the middle. So you'll see the bowlers on this one have continued to create the funnel down this area, and step 5 is to Valkyrie the core. Now you're going to do that with a jump spell to get access into the middle, and then a rage spell over the top of the Valkyries to help them tear down that Town Hall and get you the 50% and the 2-star. And as a Town Hall 10 versus Town Hall 11, that is the main aim. You can see on this one, Phantom Roger, who will be featured as we go through this strategy guide, absolutely tearing it apart. No real danger in that one. It was a safe 2-star, and that is what's great about this strategy. So let's move down the attacks in this war we're in right now. Let's move on to number 2 here with Reluctance, using the same strategy, ripping apart this base. Now you can see in this one, there are a few more defenses in the center there, which the Valkyries will have a lot more of a hard time getting the Town Hall, but they're all clumped together, so the Valkyries will tear that apart. We do bring a freeze spell just to help out with this, but anyway, the baby dragons are in. They're setting the funnel for the queen to move into the base here, and they're also great at sniping off some of the defenses on the outside. So we have the queen charge coming in as in step 2, and we're already using a rage spell at this point to help bring the queen up to full health and just maintain her. The baby dragons used on the right hand side there in order to send the queen across to the left towards the enemy queen. Now you'll see another example here of where the poison spell comes down to slow the enemy queen down. Now our queen isn't in any danger here. There's no point defenses on the queen. Now there's an expo on her, but you'll see a rage spell isn't quite needed to get that enemy queen down. We do then use one in order to push the queen forward, but actually she would have been safe in that situation. Moving on to step 3, sorry. Still on step 3, we have the lure there with the dragon. Not the dragon, there's a dragon in the CC. The giant, sorry. Gosh. poison onto the CC. As they go down, we'll continue and move on to step 4, which is to continue the funnel. So again, as we zoom out, you can see this is being created quite nicely here, and the king coming in to the right hand side, not joining on to the queen this time, with the Valkyries to rip open this part of the base. And the queen is about to go down, but the funnel's already been created. She's done her job. You can see if we bring the jump spell in this region towards the bomb tower, we've already cut open an area with the wall breakers before. So moving on to step 5 and valking the core, as they come in, freeze spell onto that backside to take down some of them defenses, and the rage spell takes the Valkyries right the way through it. Before that freeze spell comes out, the town hall is down. We've got the 2-star. And again, quite a safe strategy. The Eagle Artillery is down at this point, so we can then slowly pop the baby dragons in to pick up the remaining percentage. But obviously, depending on where that is within the base, you may have to bring these troops in sooner, because the Eagle will obviously be hitting at the troops. Now, mainly I would say the CC and the enemy queen is what you want to be going for. But scout the base, obviously look at what different objectives you can take. If you can get the Eagle Artillery in there as well, then obviously you can do stuff like this at the end, trying to snipe it off. So another great attack there. Let's move down. We're still within the same war here. Let's just go to number 4. Now the reason we're doing this is the Town Hall 10s versus the Town Hall 11. It's a lot easier to get them 2-stars. Free up your Town Hall 11s to dip down and take them 10s, but also go for them 3-stars as well. So on this one, using an earthquake spell to get massive amounts of value in the center there, Expos, Inferno Towers, Town Hall, all taking that 25% hit from the earthquake spell, creating the funnel with the baby dragons, and then the queen's in as in step 2. We've already wall breaked in to encourage her to go into the base, using the baby dragons on the right hand side there just to encourage her across to the left. So as she moves forward, again, you've just got to be very patient at this stage. Use the rage spells sparingly to keep her alive. So the poison spell in on the enemy CC there. We missed the lure at the top with the giant. Poison spell on the CC, and a rage spell is often well used in this area as the CC's on the queen. Not sure if it was needed in this case, but you can see quite a few point defenses onto the queen there. 3 cannons and the Grand Warden itself. So the rage spell was needed. The baby dragons again on the outside, all it does is mean that the queen can continue moving straight forward and she's not getting distracted by these buildings on the outside. It's kind of concentrating her fire onto the defenses themselves, using the baby dragons and that enraged bonus to pick off the buildings on the outside. So again, you can highlight just the importance of being patient with step 2 and 3, letting the queen create the funnel, using the healers to keep her alive, and the rage spells just to boost her health through them areas of high damage. Now the rage spells should hit the healers as well. So moving on to step 4 and creating the funnel, continuing the funnel, the king has come the opposite side of the queen along with a few Valkyries to really tear open that side, and you can see with the jump spell, the Valkyries to the core in that final step are going to move straight into that area because there's nowhere else for them to go. Freeze spell again chosen onto the multi-inferno with the rage over the top. Valkyries take that area down, and it's again a very comfortable 2-star for this Town Hall 10 versus Town Hall 11, continuing with the baby dragons on the outside. And look at down here how much value and extra percentage you can get just from the Valkyries that created that funnel earlier. So it's always worth keeping the baby dragons until the end if you can, but also, just like I said before, taking note of where that Eagle Artillery is situated, because if it's still going to be alive at the end of the raid, then you have to take that into account and maybe bring these troops in earlier. At the very start of the raid, if there's any buildings that you can snipe off with archers and minions, then definitely go ahead and do that, because it's an extra percent, and at the end of the day, that is exactly what you're after with this strategy, a highest percentage as possible 2-star as a Town Hall 10. So again, coming in, we're actually going straight into the queen charge, step 2 to begin with, but then the baby dragon at the north there again just creates the funnel and means that the queen can come down towards the south here. The enemy king you do have to be wary of. Just look at how much damage it's creating on the queen, but since she isn't in any fire of any point defenses, we know that she's going to stay alive, but often you would have to use a poison or a rage spell there on the enemy king. Don't just think it's the enemy queen you have to take note of. So again, as we're being patient and she's moving down to the south here, we'll just start to use baby dragons on the outside. Not as many in this raid, but it just concentrates her fire. In a second, I'm sure we will be bringing her in a little bit deeper into the base. But you can see that on the ring, she can actually take out all of them defenses from the outside. So at this point, there's no need to break her in. The only time we'll need to break in is to create the gap within the wall for the Valkyries to get in, and make sure we create that early enough so that the funnel can be created. So if we waited all the way around until the queen got to say around here before we broke them in, then the Valkyries would be attracted to the buildings over here. We need to break them in down the south here so that we can create the funnel on either side and attract the Valkyries to the core. So you'll see that in a second. There we go. Broke in right at the south. Enemy CC's already down, and you'll see exactly what I mean here as we move into step 3 and 4. So we're continuing with the rage spells to keep the troops alive. As the bowlers come in this one, again, you could use Valkyries, equally the same, just to create the funnel on the left here. And then it's very important that if you can't jump directly into the town hall compartment, that you need to wall breaker that inner layer as well. So you see that is done. The Valkyrie is attracted to the expo, then the jump spell accesses the town hall compartment, and if we hadn't have wall breaked in right in the south, the Valkyries would have been attracted round to where the queen is now. So it's quite important that you are very patient, get the funnel created, otherwise the Valkyries will run around the side exactly as this base is designed to do. So I hope that kind of summarizes things and you're getting the hang of it. We'll put 2 more war attacks on here just to really nail it down and make sure you know exactly what's going on. Any comments, leave them below. Anything that you feel I've missed, make sure to share that as well with other tips for people, because we can all learn from each other with this as well. You'll see the baby dragon just continuing to rack up percent. 70% as a town hall 10. That is absolutely massive. 2-star is the aim, but if you can rack up even more percent, then that's going to be beneficial for your clan. So let's just move across to our previous war. We'll quickly pull that up and you can see a couple of more examples of this strategy. So again, we have Reluctance here against their number 1. Very same style of base, these ring bases that are very easy to use this strategy against. And you'll see again, we have this inner layer of wall that we're going to have to wall break through, because a jump spell, unless we used it in this region, probably still wouldn't even access the town hall there because it's in its own compartment. So the baby dragons have created a bit of a funnel here for the queen to go directly into the base, still using the baby dragons over to the north of the queen, because clearly we want her to go south here. So we've wall break it in at this area, so we're going to have to make sure that we create the funnel either side for the Valkyries to go into the core. So again, we're on to that stage where we're just being patient. The CC has been lured, couple of poison spells onto them to take it down, but the queen's not in any fire, so we probably don't need to use a rage spell at this point. Baby dragons still being sprinkled in the outside to maintain the queen's fire. You'll see a couple of point defenses on her. Look at this placement, just so the healers are inside, maybe a tad too far forward on that one, but the healers want to be inside, and you want to keep the spell in front of them so that they continue to move forward. It's really the healers you're trying to hit with the rage spell. In certain situations, you may use the rage spell to help hurry the queen up, for instance, to get an air defense down and protect your queen. But moving across, you'll see the wall breakers here, opening that compartment to where we can jump spell into the town hall. The king and baby dragon being used over at the northeast here to continue the funnel, so that this area we've wall breaked in from, the Valkyries will be attracted in towards the clan castle. Often you want to use just one Valkyrie, did you see that? So that we can see where they're going to go before we send the whole group in, because it would be a nightmare to send 10 or 12 Valkyries in when there's one building over to the northeast, say, where they'd be attracted to. So one test Valkyrie can ensure that you know exactly where they're going. Often that can set off a giant bomb and be very beneficial as well. But you'll see again, nice and easy, raged over the top where the Valkyries got to the core. They often get themselves around and take extra buildings out there, just not quite getting the Eagle Artillery down in this instance. But we've already got the 2-star, 60%, and again, nice and safe, bringing them baby dragons in on the outside. And I hope this is now making sense to you guys. So we'll maybe show you one more, and then, like I said, any comments, just leave them down below and I'll try and help you guys out as best as I can. So we'll move on to the final attack of this replay. Like I said, the 5 steps are just to try and help you to mimic this strategy a little bit easier and learn it, and then you can adapt it as you move forward. So on this replay, you'll see over on the back end of the base here, where we're not going to be charging the queen in from, there's a couple of buildings that we can snipe off with minions and archers, and for literally 1 to 2 troop space, it's obviously worth doing that to rack up the percentage. So step 1, the baby dragon in to try and create the funnel. Not very well created there, so we're bringing another one in, and then the queen can come in for step 2 for the queen charge. 4 to 5 healers behind her, and then as she moves into the base, we'll then, you can see we're just sniping off buildings at the bottom there again. Very, very close there with the queen. If you need to use the ability, you're going to have to use it, because if the queen goes down, it is raid over. But obviously, you want to be really taking close attention to your queen, paying close attention to your queen, so that you don't have to prematurely use that ability. Rage spells continuing to keep her alive. There's a lot of damage in this area, so the rage spell onto the healers is obviously very important in this area. But as she moves through and down to the south here, she gets a little bit of a break. CC has been lured. I've missed it again with the giant over on the west there, but it means the queen can take that down, and them troops aren't going to distract your Valkyries in the center. So the poison spell on top of them, we're continuing to use the baby dragons on the outside just to focus that fire onto the defenses. Wall breakers are in with the king, moving on to step 4 and continuing that funnel. So as I said, you can use purely baby dragons and let the queen do most of this, but often you want to bring in a clan castle of bowlers or Valkyries alongside the king to help you to create that funnel. Now in this replay, we brought them in alongside the queen, or you've seen in previous replays where you take them the opposite side of the queen. It all depends where you've wall breaked in and how easy it is to get the Valkyries to the core. So you'll see there, they go straight into the middle. We don't even have a rage spell over the top of them on this one, because I think it was probably planned. Valkyries having a little bit of a misfit in the middle there, attracted to the queen, but there wasn't many defenses in the middle. The Valkyries only literally had to get to a Tesla and the town hall, whereas if the queen had gone down earlier and we hadn't have used that rage spell, then it would have been raid over. So you have to be adaptable, but they're kind of 5 steps that you can use to break down this strategy and learn it, and then obviously you can adapt it to the base itself. And that is one of the best strategies right now for Town Hall 10 versus Town Hall 11. I hope that helped you guys out. Make sure to subscribe for more Clash of Clans. I've been your host, Judo Sloth, and until next time, peace out, guys. Stay tuned for more Clash of Clans.